I want to talk about that. I don't want to think about that. I don't remember that. I put that out of mind. No. We got to talk about that. I don't like to talk about that because it makes me cry, but it's going to be necessary to excavate the poison that's down in your spirit, that's toxic, that's making you depressed and suicidal. Wounds and healing have something in common. As odd as it is, you wouldn't think that God would use wounds to heal you. But the Bible said by his stripes we are healed. And so he tells you that the price of true healing is wounding. So if he really loves you, he wounds you for a short time that he can have you for a lifetime. When you come to church and you hear about the promise and you go home and you find yourself in the process, your life is a contradiction to your faith. But you are so loyal to Jesus that you would never admit that you are not seeing the manifestation of what your pastor is talking about in your life. And it looks like that you must be doing something wrong because they are talking about the blessings and the healing and the soaring and the power of God and the strength of God and how all things are yours and all promises are yea and amen, and you're the head and not the tail and above and not beneath. And then all of a sudden, in the midst of them saying all of those things, you are going home and you're saying, how is my life in such shambles? Never realizing that those that God is going to anoint the most, he always crushes the most severely. And I was going through this test and I was crying out to God, and I couldn't even find faith to believe him and rebuke the devil and rebuke whatever it was, because I wasn't even sure it was the devil. I knew that if it happened, God allowed it. And so I had to rely on my foundation of trust that I know that God is for me. And so even if he wounds me, I said, I don't like this, God. I went out in the back. I told him, I don't like this, God. I don't like this at all. I don't like the way it makes me feel. I don't like what I'm going through. I don't like being threatened. I don't like being intimidated. I don't like what's on the line. I don't like none of it. I don't like none of it. But I trust you. I trust you that if you allow this to happen to me, it's going to come out for my good. Job understood that if God allowed his crops to burn up, his wife to abhor his breath, his finances to be disrupted, and even his children to be dead, he still believed and trusted God that at the end of it, his outcome would be better than his incident. Somebody right now is going through an incident that is quite painful. But I'm telling you that if you trust God, the outcome will be greater than the incident. I have never met anybody who did exceptional things in their life who had not at some point endured exceptional crushing. It is the force to which you have been pulled back that determines the height that you will fly. It became so bad that we at one point had to go gather apples to feed the kids because we had nothing at all to eat. God knew that later in my life, he was going to bless me extraordinarily. And some people would later question, are you serving God for stuff? So he allowed me to be crushed early so that no matter what they said, I would know. Sometimes he crushes you because he's going to bless you so much he does not want you to get arrogant like your predecessors. And so he humbles you. Anytime he's going to exalt you, he humbles you. You take the 2 fish and the 5 loaves of bread. When they brought it to Jesus, they brought it to Jesus to multiply it. And the first thing he did was crush it. He took it and he blessed it and he broke it. As he broke it, he started crushing the fish and the bread. And the more he crushed it, the more it multiplied. The more he crushed it, the more it multiplied. The more he crushed it, the more it multiplied. And all of a sudden you find yourself in a state of multiplication. And somebody comes in and says, look at all of that fish. But you know that when you first came into his hands, you were not enough. It was his crushing that made you more than enough. So when Jesus says, my Father is a husbandman, I immediately know that nobody plants something without intention. Go all the way back to the Old Testament. The book of Genesis, the first thing God says is be fruitful. Nobody plants something they don't want to grow. So get out of your mind that God is against you. Get out of your mind that God doesn't want you to be successful. If the father is the husbandman, wouldn't it be stupid for you to plant something that you didn't want to prosper? So you don't have to spend your time on your knees asking God to prosper you, because if he planted you, he wanted you to prosper. You don't have to feel bad about prosperity, because if he planted you, he wanted you to prosper, and the first thing he commanded you was to be fruitful. Before he said be holy, he said be fruitful. So God has a right to expect something from me because he's in a relationship with me. When he says give and it shall be given unto you, he has a right to ask me to give something because he gave something. God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten son. So once you set the benchmark that high, surely I can give you my carnal stuff because you have given me your son. I gotta get this out because this is important. Some people take on a pathology of pain and they make the crushing their address, and they live in what should have been a stage. And no matter what you do, you cannot pull them out of it because pain becomes their normal. And they don't understand that they self-sabotage their success. You're not fighting a demon. You're not fighting the devil. You are fighting the fact that you have become so accustomed to pain that it is your place of residence. And I challenge you today to shatter your way out, to break your way out. If you can't get out the door, come out the window. I challenge you today. Something in your life is going to be what God uses to crush you. But remember that crushing is not the end.